My treasure!
Oh god.
Go fuck yourself.
きっと約束だよいつかまた同じ笑顔で
Hello everyone and beyond, and welcome to another episode of the Annie Chat Box. And it's been a while, but once again, I am your host, Jonathan Joestar, as everyone here likes to call me.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, we are a full house, so I am joined with the ever wonderful Cammy,
Aw, hey, thank you. Hi, everyone.
my fellow gentleman of the box, Craig,
Sup, internet? How's it going?
and our wonderful producer, Cassie.
I love how you say wonderful as if you're in a
I
physical
was just like, I gave nice compliments, and I was like, I need
Oh,
another
then I
nice
gotta give a
compliment.
compliment to her. Ugh.
No,
Hey, varied
He's met his quota.
adjectives
I just
are
had a
hard.
blank.
I get it. Varied adjectives are really hard sometimes.
You see, every time now that you say, ladies and gentlemen and beyond, I'm just gonna think of that anime this season. Like, what is it? A Place Beyond the Universe or something like that? Like,
Yes.
that's the thing that just popped into my head randomly.
Shout outs to all y'all
Um,
listeners in Antarctica.
If we have it.
Anywho, as usual, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud, as well as on YouTube. You can find us
AnnieChatmail@gmail.com if you want to
anychatmail@gmail.com if you want to shoot us an email. You can message us on Twitter at twitter.com/theanychatbox. And as always, if you find it within your heart of hearts to send any money our ways to help us keep doing this, you can donate to us via patreon.com/anychatbox.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, back to our full review episodes today, but as always, we have a topic for today, and inspired by the idea Cammy mentioned to us for the 2017 best of, we are going to steal her idea for the topic today. For anime, we would love to see as video games, or otherwise have already been turned into video games afterwards. So,
Yeah.
Discussion immense.
I thought of a really,
Nice.
brutal one was my first thought, and I was like, you know what would be fun? Madoka Magica JRPG.
Oh my
And-
god.
Oh my
And
God.
if you play it right, you could do you could change things in the plot. Like maybe you could change Sayaka's route or save certain characters from dying. But it's
Ooh,
all
that would be
adept
really
to your
interesting.
decision making. That would
Multiple ending in Madoka anime,
yeah.
where maybe you could actually stop Madoka from becoming a magical girl.
Ooh, that'd be cool too if you could play on different characters' routes. So you could play as Homura, but then play as Madoka in one, and et cetera, et cetera. That'd be
It's
really
kind of
cool.
like a visual novel battle game. That's how I think that in my head.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think definitely something along the lines of Mass Effect or the Persona games where it's halfway kind of visual novel style and choices that you make in your dialogue depend on the plot, but then you also have some combat, definitely. Killing them witches.
I would
That
like
would
that a
be-
lot, actually.
that
That'd
would
be fun.
Epic, yeah.
You could beat up the witches' familiars as well.
Ooh, yes, I love it. Oh man, and then we get the fully rendered, beautiful transformations on 3D dimensional models. I'd love that. I love it.
Yeah, that does sound like an epic idea. I mean, I know there was a I think it was fan-made Madoka Flash game.
Oh really? Huh.
I vaguely remember it. I'm gonna have to hunt for that now if I can find it again. It was incredibly hard though.
Yikes.
I didn't get very far. It was like boss rush kind of thing.
Mm.
But yeah, who else wants to go actually?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Gregory, did you have one?
I basically already know two animes that have video game adaptations. So one which I'm very curious. I don't know much about the game. Little Witch Academia: The Chamber of Time.
Yes.
I believe that one's gonna be like what's it called? Shit.
Ni no Kuni.
Dragon Crown?
Oh, Dragon Quest. You mean?
No, not Dragon Quest. The one where you had a party of 4 and like each person was playing one different character, and it was made by the same people behind Odin Sphere.
Oh, I do not know. According to Wikipedia here, it says it's an action role-playing video game developed by A Plus Games, published by Ben and Namco, coming out this February. What a game to actually have a video game adaptation. It's not surprising. The world is rich and lively with that the universe, so good on them for actually creating something like that. I'm very curious. I'm glad that it's actually coming out in the States, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one does look really fun, and I do want to get it.
Mm-hmm.
The other game you mentioned, the other series that has been confirmed to be getting a video game, I believe, is My Hero Academia, which
Yes,
is getting
it
a
is.
fighting game.
It
Yep.
is getting a game, which I almost want to play, even though it's probably most likely going to end up being I don't know anything about the game, and I'm guessing it's going to be like a fighter.
Looks like a Naruto.
It looks like it was going to be a fighter.
If it's gonna be a button masher fighter, oh, I'm so down to just fucking flail and try to make my babies win.
Speaking of fighters, Dragon Ball Fighter Z is coming out this coming Friday. Made by the people that did Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear. That's going to be very fun. It's like tag team battles with that one. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Should we plug the Rival Gaming podcast, because they had a section where they were talking about the beta?
Check out I'm on it, Saber Progress. That is twitter.com/Saber Progress. You can hear more about video games in any form over there, by the way. So have fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Speaking of like video like anime that don't have adaptations, but I wish
Yeah.
I would love for Flip Flappers to have a video game.
Dude,
What kind of game?
Like-
how could they even compete with the show's animation? That'd be wild to just see.
Oh, no.
Like the
Yeah,
transfer?
wow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but you could also just go from world to world like collecting the fragments. Like if you, I don't know, maybe base the game off of the initial parts of the show where
Yeah.
they were going around trying to get the fragments and the gems. And then you could still have story elements or even have the exact same story. Or maybe it could be something like you mentioned with Madoka Magica where there could be branching endings depending on maybe like a world that
man.
you pick and fall in love with or something. Or maybe there could be like a little temptation meter every time you go into illusion and
Yes.
like if you can't find the gem fast enough, you're kind of stuck there. So, something like that. That would be really cool.
I like
because
that a
there's so
lot.
many vast worlds in Flip Flappers.
Will a bad ending be when you go into that really dark world where they say greetings to you?
Goki Kenya.
I don't think it would be any different from any other world if it was a actual like video game. Like every like world, as it were,
Yeah.
would have its own risks. I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I think that's what the appeal of having like Flip Flappers as a video game would be, is that each one
Yeah.
would have its own. And of course, because it's Magical Girl, you can have the transformations and have the fights. And that's one thing that I really wish Flip Floppers had more of, which was more
Fights.
action-packed fights. So that you could definitely get more of that in like a video game, especially in
Interesting.
Pure Illusion. That would be so cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting just considering, like, with Madoka and my initial thoughts with, like, Made in Abyss and Flip Flappers, I feel like that's something that I tend to correlate towards what would be an effective video game is any show that has, like, really complex and adventurous, like, world design, because I feel like then bringing that extra dimension to it, like, developers would just have a field day with. you know,
Mhm.
like working with the complex possibilities of the worlds and like striking art styles. Something that, just to encapsulate smaller, weirdly enough, it doesn't need a video game adaptation, but part of why I got so interested in seeing Eurocamp this season for impressions was because I got such a reminiscent vibe of Animal Crossing and Animal Crossing's recent mobile expansion, Pocket Camp, which is all about chilling and indulging in warm fun with people. And I don't know. That was a correlation that I really liked, and even the background music sounded similar. And I was like, "Aw, look at this peaceful vibe." And it's cool to see how that like carries over a little bit. Except Eurocamp's got better jokes than Pocket Camp does.
And it doesn't take 6 hours in order to make a pizza.
Oh, I hope there's an episode where they build a pizza. That would be great. Yeah.
There is actually one other anime that aired that I would love to see a game made of. Although I'm also sitting here wondering how would they go about making a game of this. And this is gonna be typical Drango or typical John here. Frame arms goals.
Oh.
And the more I'm sitting here thinking about it, and the more I'm like, maybe a customized system similar to Gundam Breaker, where you can just slap shit onto the outside of them and just see what you think looks cool because of all the extra modeling support goods that are canon in the series that you can add on to them, because they're also made by Kotobukiya. I would love a fighting of like a battle game, sort of. Basically, I want Gundam Gundam Breaker, but with cute girls. Thinking about it.
What are my two very John things? Gundam cute girls. What if we put them together?
Honestly,
Sold.
Gundam Build
Day
Fighters
one
would be
purchase.
cute too as a video game.
Do they have a video game? I don't know if they do.
I mean,
not technically, but the Gundam Breaker series is kind of Build Fighters the anime. You just don't meet any of the characters.
Well,
it's
that
a different
sounds fun for me.
story. So,
you can play as your favorite characters in Gundam Versus with the Build Fighters downloadable content. There you go, huh?
Oh,
yeah, that's the closest we've got so far.
Yeah.
I don't think any of the. Oh wait, no, Bear Guy is in Gundam Breaker 3, I believe. Bear Guy-san.
I've gotten into some video games recently that are more of like the click around and explore, and you kind of build the story from that. Probably
adventure games.
Prime example would be like well, and they can be really small too. I started playing Gone Home, where you're just but I got like 10 minutes in and got scared, and I was like, I'm gonna play this later. But
it's such a good game.
I'll get back
You
to
should
it.
tell Zach you're playing that game.
But yeah,
he'll be so happy.
But, you know, it's really an element of, like, you know, it kind of does the same thing that a lot of, like, horror games, I don't think it's a horror game, but you do the thing where you're, you know, you see everything, you see yourself through the eyes of the player, you're moving around, you're honestly just opening up things, like, looking and examining at things, and kind of building the story from there. And because I just can't let go of this show, the first thing is I was like, if they could encapsulate a lot of the elements from Girls Last Tour into that sort of atmosphere where you just click and explore around the dystopian world and then get some of the story, I was like, that would be cute. I'd go watch that. I'd play it.
Nice.
But yeah, you could do it with honestly like any kind of story that could encapsulate around exploring a world and having kind of a small story behind it. Would be pretty cool.
Yeah, something like that with Gino's Journey would be cool too, thinking about it.
That's true if you went to towns or stuff. Oh man, but like all the towns are abandoned, it'd be like a twist on it. That would be really cool.
Oh yeah.
You just kind of have to unravel like the town story and how it got destroyed.
Yeah, so cool. And also thinking about that with Kino's Journey, you'd miss all the battle elements that do
Oh yeah.
are part of the draw of Kino's journey. Thinking about it, so
Yeah, well, I mean, there are some shows that like you could. I guess I was just examining like that game style, but you could adapt some series to different video game styles as well. So that's kind of a cool thing to consider. Does anyone know if there was a Kill la Kill video game? Because I feel like a lot of people would have gone for that if it existed.
I don't think there was. I don't remember hearing anything. I'm sure that would have been hyped.
I'm on
even
Google.
if it didn't.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm
good old
looking
Google.
now.
Let's see. Kill la Kill game. Oh, wait. Oh, that's a Reddit post.
Oh, okay, yeah, probably none.
Like, people, it looks like people are asking for it, but it hasn't actually been. A game that has been made that I would love to see remade would be, like a Card Captor Sakura video game.
There was a Card Captor Sakura video game?
They had one on the Game Boy Color. I don't know if it ever got released here.
Oh my god.
But I would love to have, like, a traveling around collecting the different cloud cards as Sakura game. But, like, on a new system, like a PS4 or something like that. Something where I could have a real visual experience.
Are you saying a la Pokemon?
Not necessarily. Like, what do you mean?
Like, if you're going around hunting on the cloud cards, would kind of like a Digimon or a Pokemon?
Well, no, because Pokemon and Digimon, I feel like you have, like, you know, your assigned thing and you can go around and you can collect things as you want or whatever, whereas Card Captor Sakura, I think it would be, like, with a game like that, you would be required per the story to catch everything. But it might have intricate ways of you doing so, or more intricate gameplay than just, oh, a cloud card appeared. Do you want to do this or that or the other? It'd probably be more of, like, a turn-based strategy game, but with a little bit more involved.
Yeah, an updated port would be awesome. Translate it into English, please.
Yes, I think that goes without saying. None of us here are fluent in Japanese. As much as we'd all love to be, probably.
Oh my gosh, I wish, man. To be completely self-indulgent, too, there were a ton of Sailor Moon games, like old video games, that, yeah, I want the same treatment for. Just give me my magical girls in video games, please. All of them.
Ditto. Ditto.
I had one for a moment, and I lost it. Oh, yeah, it looks like, the guy behind Metal Gear Rising, from Platinum Games, said that he would love to do a Kill la Kill game or another game, but hasn't actually been greenlit to do either. So
Noted. Okay. Last one in my mind. But Scum's Wish is a visual novel. just one of those super dark, like angsty visual novels.
Yep.
I would play it. I'd play the fuck out of it.
Damn right you would. I'd want to watch you stream it on your Twitch. But
yeah, I'm completely blanking on any other ideas now. So
cool. We got a solid 20 minutes in.
Yeah, that's nice. A nice variety of different games we got in there. We got RPGs, we got visual novels, we got
some combination
beat 'em
of
ups,
both. Yeah.
combination ideas, and we even got ports of old games in there.
Yes.
On to our actual main topic of today, because today we are going to be talking about a little known series. It got some attention.
Not a whole lot. No,
It's called you might have heard of it. It's called Made in Abyss.
Never heard of it.
Watched it and didn't hear about it. No.
Sounds overrated. Fake news. Why am I here again?
Of all the terms I ever thought I'd hear Craig use, I never thought I'd hear fake news.
I say it all the time. You just don't pay attention.
You haven't said it around me.
Anywho, so animated by Studio Kinema Citrus, I think that's how it's pronounced. It's a capital K.
Not to be mistaken for Citrus, the anime airing this season.
Yeah, completely unrelated. Nothing to do with each other. Other shows that they have done are Barakamon, Black Bullet, and Tokyo Magnitude 8.0. The synopsis goes: The Abyss, a gaping chasm stretching down into the depths of the earth, filled with mysterious creatures and relics from a time long past. How did it come to be? What lies at the bottom? Countless brave individuals known as divers have sought to solve these mysteries of the abyss, fearlessly descending into its dark realms. The best and bravest of the divers, the White Whistles, are hailed as legends by those who remain on the surface. Riko, daughter of a missing White Whistle, daughter of the missing White Whistle, Liza the Annihilator, aspires to become like her mother and explore the furthest reaches of the abyss. However, just a novice Red Whistle herself, she is only permitted to roam its most upper layer. Even so, Riko has a chance encounter with a mysterious robot with the appearance of an ordinary young boy. She comes to name him Reg, and he has no recollection of the events preceding his discovery. Certain that the technology to create Reg must have come from deep within the abyss, the two venture forth into the chasm to recover his memories and see the bottom of the great pit with their own eyes. However, they know not the harsh reality that is the true existence of the abyss. Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I feel like a dun 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 has to follow that description.
You just need to add it to the synopsis. Just dun dun dun.
See, that's what would happen if I was on Mal Rewrite, but you know.
I mean, you could be. It doesn't sound like they put much effort into finding their writers, to be honest. And you're a good writer.
Yes, future goals. But yeah, so this show was good. I liked it.
It's good stuff. And I think that one of the things that's like the best thing about it is John can be completely proud that he made all of us watch it.
Mm-hmm.
He's redeemed himself for gamers.
Even if I did kind of steal it from Cammy.
Hey, I wanted you to have it. Remember this.
She did. She was begging you. She's like, John, please put the show high. Please watch this. What was your reasoning for that? I don't remember. I know you were pushing it really hard on him, though.
I thought the show looked amazing, but maybe due to like what else was airing in the summer, though I highly doubt that when I went back and thought of how crappy a lot of my summer picks were. But I was just like, this is a John show, and so John, I want you to take it because it looks really good. I just wanted it to be there, but I also thought that it was in the realm of things that you liked. So it just, I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Worked out.
It still felt like it was like, during the sink and swim element, she was standing there with like a knife, like,
just a little bit.
You want to parse it.
And you want to know the funny part? I hadn't even watched any of it yet.
Oh, no.
I was just so entranced by the PV. So yeah, and I mean, I'll raise hands up. Yeah, profit that I knew that the show would be quality, but even if it was quality in ways that maybe I didn't expect. So, yeah.
But no, I did still enjoy it, and I still passed it. Even if it did actually take, even if I was like one of the last ones to actually finish watching it in the end.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that I was the one who was most skeptical about this show, and then I ended up being one of like the biggest patrons for it.
Mm-hmm.
Going around telling everyone, please fucking watch this show. Please fucking watch this show. Have you watched the show? John, have you watched it yet?
It's true. You did push me to start watching it too. And I mean, I think that's one of the great things about this show is it really did just kind of come out of nowhere as something that was just really enjoyable to a lot of the anime community. And I don't think anyone really anticipated it, to be as good as it was.
And I think that has a lot to do with the story, which is a good transition to what we should probably talk about. But
yeah,
I think that one of the things that I would argue, and do argue frequently, is that the story and specifically the world building in the show is ridiculously good. They do one of the oldest tricks in the book that I love in literature just alone, where they give you these little pieces at the very beginning. You don't even understand how important those pieces are. And then as the world opens up, you start to realize how important each and every little thing that is shown in this story really is. Both in the character's journey and also in the world itself, it's building. And I think that's one of the best things about Made in Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that, like, it's got a really cute design to it, but even so, they never shied away from saying, this abyss is a scary place.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know it's a scary place, right? Like, there's horrible things that can happen to you down there. That's cute art style, so yeah, no. Seriously. It's a scary place.
I think that's also why
Um,
I recall in your initial impressions, you were like the one thing that you noticed was that it took up to 3 episodes for them to go into the abyss. But
Yes.
because of the contents of the abyss, too, I think that made the build up just to get down there so impactful. You know, to me, it made like even just their descent and like people that they said goodbye to like beforehand. Like I was already just like emotionally impacted by that, and I was like, oh man. This is happening. We're going. And
like I might have said like I was worried about how. I mean, admittedly, minor spoilers. It doesn't technically end, and there has actually been season 2 confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
So they haven't reached the end of. They haven't actually reached the bottom of the abyss yet. So that was one of my concerns when it was like, it's 3 episodes in and they haven't even ended the abyss. How far are they going to get? But even so, I wouldn't take it any other way because, again, we got to meet the other characters. We got that. There was a better build up to actually going into the abyss, and like even that departure was heartfelt, and then stuff that happens later on. Effectively feels more impactful because of like
the pacing at start. Yeah,
the pacing. So I'm not gonna go into any spoilers yet beyond. It's technically not finished, but then the fact that season 2 has been confirmed kind of already says that. So
yeah.
But yeah, so.
Greg, you've been pretty quiet. How do you feel about the story?
For just curious, was it confirmed as a season 2, or is it just a project, a Made in Abyss project in the works?
The last time I checked, it was just a project.
Okay.
It didn't clarify.
Oh, really? Huh. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't say specific. What I saw didn't specifically say this is getting a season 2. It just said that something had been greenlit. But
yeah,
I mean,
same with
that's
Konosuba, right?
Oh, okay.
Well, that's the assumption. I cannot confirm or deny whether it's getting a season 2.
I thought I heard season 2, but again, like multiple sources, it's hard to really like tack down on what's legitimate. But they're working on something with it, so. It won't be the end of it, just with the 13 episodes of what we got.
No.
But you asked what my thoughts were. Basically, if you listen to our past episodes at the end of the year 2017, then I will restate it here. This is a show that friend of the show, Zach, said that he really got into this, and he's not the biggest fan or advocate of anime. Cass hyped this show up quite a bit when you guys said that John was the last to watch it. I was actually the last to watch it. I watched it, like, I'd say a week before I went on vacation to the Midwest to see my folks, so me and him binged all of it. It does an interesting thing where it sets up the world and it doesn't info dump you on everything all at once, making it seem bored. It has a great opening. I've said it before, where the opening shows the town and it has that score that meshes with the opening shot of the sunrise over the town, and then going into the pit itself is mysterious, but there's something drawing the main characters there, and I'm very curious to see what'll happen if we get any more, whether that be OVA or a sequel season or what have you.
Yeah. Let me think. Honestly, too, as far as like story goes, I personally was hooked by the end of episode 1. distinctly that scene that you mentioned with the sun rising on the town, and you get the full scope of the abyss. I hear for most people, like at that point, they were pretty sold. So I definitely think that the story also isn't like, while the pacing of maybe like some narrative plot events are paced a certain way, I don't think that the story is like slow burn. Like I was intrigued pretty much right off the bat. So that's
same.
also good.
Oh yeah, certainly. Like I was like, part of me is like, yeah, I'm glad that they finally got into the abyss by episode 3. And I think if they had dragged it out any longer than that, it probably would have felt a lot slower. But I guess there was part of me that was just like, just get in the abyss, but like on hindsight, I'm like, no, I'm glad they took 3 episodes to go into the abyss. And because once they do start going there, that's quite the journey.
Yeah.
And like, I was gonna say, like I said earlier, that the information that they give you at the beginning that you think is just basic world building is actually more foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. And also, in this day and age, we don't get a whole lot of that in anime. We don't get a lot of intricate foreshadowing. It is something that's there and present, but it's not intricately done in a lot of cases. It's still present in really good shows like, you know, Monster, or I'm trying to think of other good shows that just have these little things.
Death Note?
I don't think Death Note had the best story ever, but somebody could argue it. But like, for example, without spoiling anything, there's a picture book in Monster.
Yeah. And
you think that it's not very important, or it's just something that they're setting up just to be like a little addition to make the show just that much creepier. But by the time you get to the end of your show, you're like, oh, fuck, I see what they did there.
Yeah.
I would say the same applies to Made in Abyss. You get these very intricate little facts about, oh, well, this is what can happen to you when you go into the abyss. And it's almost shown in like a picture book style. But then you actually go into the abyss and you realize just how much that descent is just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Just like the picture book and Monster, I would make that comparison, kind of.
I see what you're getting at there. Yeah. I also think that, yeah, just especially in method of storytelling and information, it's dispersed, like you said, at just, yeah, very, very intricate ways. But also they do a lot of explanation, not purely just through the dialogue, but through the things that you see. Just like visual storytelling. And I really, really like that too. You know, we didn't need a full encyclopedia of every single monster that's in the abyss, or like, you know, they'd look at like blueprints, and you don't get the full explanation of what's there, but it's more for you to really explore and kind of start to pull the pieces together. So that was also something I really, really liked in the story. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler to say, and I think that the story is also effective because it's not afraid to get real and gritty, and to a degree dark when it needs to. Yeah. I think that, and I think a lot of us have the same opinion that it does its dark elements very well. It's not dark for the sake of dark.
No.
Yeah, we'll expand on it
Most
in the spoiler
not,
room, but you know.
Yeah, it's like, how far do we want to get onto this topic before it really starts spoiling stuff or anything? But anywho, it's not just the story that sells us on it, it's also the characters and how they interact with each other. It mostly, for the most part, it follows Riko and Reg.
I was going to say Kingdom Hearts.
Slip of the tongue there. Or whatever. Yeah, Riko and Reg are the 2 main characters. But there are plenty of other characters beyond just these 2 that we follow. Even as we go down into the abyss, we do meet other divers and whatnot.
My argument in regards to the characters would be that I feel like while Rico and Reg are important, I feel like the story in regards to their surroundings are almost more important than they are.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And I think that's why there are so little characters in the show that actually play a huge role, other than some you meet later. For the most part, it's Rico and Reg, and that's basically it, minus some people they meet along the way. But they aren't there long enough for you to get too attached. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else would agree with that.
I definitely agree with that. I think the other characters, again, are kind of just to flesh out, I think, almost what is being lost in the choice to explore the abyss. You know, like, the only times that I really felt kind of emotionally attached to side characters was when they had to say goodbye. And there were a couple instances of that where I was like, oh man, like, I can feel the hurt, because people know the impact of what is going to, like, happen to them, but also these are, like, human connection is essentially, like, to a degree, something that's going to be abandoned or reshaped just in the choice they make, you know, to really to go into the abyss. But yeah, like, that's just part of kind of expanding Rico and Reg's world. But yeah, at the forefront until later events, yeah, like, we have and are led by Rico and Reg. And I mean, I think they do a good job of being enjoyable characters to follow on this journey. Like, yeah. And in that way, I think they're effective main characters.
I think the longest we spend with any of the side characters is the first 3 episodes. And then, and thankfully, because it is 3 episodes before they do start going into descending into the abyss, we get to know the other kids in their little circle at the orphanage a little bit better, and then we have to leave them, and it does make that goodbye a lot more heartfelt. And I think if we had just jumped straight into the abyss and we had them trying to pull off that heartstrings goodbye, we would have been like, yeah, okay, well, we knew this was going to happen, so bye-bye, whatever. But because it was that 3 episodes, we did have that connection. It did feel more.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and also, I guess the other thing that I think some of the side characters serve is getting a bit more backstory on just, like, Rico's past, Rico's mom. Like, you know, they serve for that, and that is also very important. It's cool that we have the perspectives through the different characters. Through the main characters, you know, it's kind of the fresh eyes, like, into the abyss. They have some knowledge, but they're really just exploring it for the first time. And then in the side characters, at least you do get those glimpses of, like, some knowledge that maybe they don't know, but that we're also gleaning about the abyss. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as, like, investment goes, really, like, it's Rico and Reg, and then, things. Things.
There are some characters later on in the story, like, for example, Nanachi is my favorite character, but I can't even discuss her without it being very spoilery. But that's the when a character matters, they matter.
I think that's really a good way to put it. Yeah.
And they do a really good job of showing you, like, and the characters that do matter because of the effect the abyss had on them. And that's what I think is cool. That's another thing that I love that they did with the characters in this show that I think is really cool.
And although
I could write
sorry.
I was going to say, I could write an entire thesis on the characters and how they relate to the abyss in this freaking show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because...
And,
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
I was just going to just say that, although she's technically not present, there is also Rico's mother, Liza, who we only ever see in flashbacks, and we learn a little bit more about her from different characters as we meet them, as they talk about her. And also Rico's own memories as she, like, recalls things and stuff.
Yeah. I'd probably say outside of, like, Nanachi and her narrative, most of the side characters, we're just kind of for, like, fleshing out purposes. But I think the three characters that, as you watch the show, that you have the most investment in are Reg, Rico, and Nanachi. Just to kind of surmise it. Yeah.
Which I appreciate, because I have way too much other stuff to take in as is.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And it's not like they don't go through anything. They go through a lot, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the relatively small cast that is ongoing is definitely not a detriment to the series. I mean, it does help us get a bit more invested in those few characters. And it also does, like, help us digest everything else going on. It's should I go on to production, or Craig, did you have anything to say?
Nope, because you guys covered it essentially. The characters essentially flesh out the world of the Abyss. Admittedly, I didn't have that much of a connection to the kids in the village. Mm-hmm. I had more of a connection to the characters halfway through the show in Nanachi, but I'm honestly spacing on the character's name, that creepy old lady. Ozen, thank you. She was very creepy, and again, the way they structure the show is you, along with Rico and Reg, are learning more about this world, and through their eyes, you essentially are just like, oh, okay, so this is what happens on level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here are the characters along the way as they flesh out the world. And as you all said, more explanation on who Rico's mom is, as well as Rico's upbringing, as it were, and birth. So.
Yeah. So I think from there we could go into production, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So gonna throw this straight out there, the art style of this does look very cute. And does look very disarming. And was it a tweet or a comment on Kitsu or something like that? It came in 2 parts, and it said, like, this looks like a cute series, watch it with your family, and then don't watch this with your family. Like, almost immediately afterwards.
Well, anybody who doesn't read the rating for the show that's their own problem. But I think you made a really good point there. This show is deceptively cute, but I think there's a very important reason for that.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting when you contrast the art in general to, like, character design. Because, I mean, I think in the earlier episodes, I did get a sense of kind of, like, dissonance or despair in, like, the world. Because the world was a lot of, like, muted colors. We, like, walked through that part of the town that was impoverished. But the kids, the kids and the characters, are very much just cute in the, like, Moe Blob art style. So, yeah.
And I think that just goes to show that, like, how each part of this anime is just so well thought out in that regard.
Yeah.
Because I would argue, like, I could write an entire thesis paper again about how this entire show could be basically about a loss of innocence. And that could be why the characters, especially the main characters, look so freaking adorable and cute, and what we associate with that term, that innocent, cute moe look.
Yep.
And I think that was an artist choice for a reason.
Oh yeah. Completely.
Definitely. And, like, as you said, there were hints of, like, even with, like, how bleak and, like, muted the colours were in the town around the Abyss, that is also a hint of, like, no, there is a darker side to this story. It like, everything is saying, yeah, it looks cute, and we have gone for that with that design for a reason, but don't take it as just being a cute, lighthearted story. This is not going to be lighthearted.
I mean, or take it as a cute and lighthearted story. Either way, it's gonna be a fucking adventure.
And also to go with not even just the muted colors, but everything around those characters. This is true in anime in general.
Yep.
But especially in this show, everything else looks much more realistic. The flowers look realistic. The abyss looks realistic. The dangers that they are going to go up against are very distinct, and that's another thing that I guess we could touch on. Like, even the monsters, they aren't CG animated.
Mm-hmm.
No, they are hand-drawn and gorgeous and...
Well, they're gorgeous, but I think that's also to make them pose as a real threat.
Yes. Definitely intimidating, even not the so big ones. You're like, okay, tiny creature, what are you gonna do?
Yes.
You start to really get suspicious of everything. Yeah, but all the designs in this, like, the different layers of the abyss as well, it's just so gorgeous and
just
almost deceptively pretty in some cases. Though there are some sections that are like, okay, this looks terrifying.
Yeah.
But it's still really well done.
Yeah.
Really good artwork.
Just
with it, like start to finish.
Yeah, that background art is just insane. Like beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I think Made in Abyss is another situation, kind of like with a lot of Shinkai films, where I'm just like, every frame of this could be a desktop wallpaper, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the level of detail there. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say like no complaints about the art production, like at all around. I think they knocked it out of the park.
It says something when, like, you almost kind of want to go there and explore yourself, but then you realize the other horror's going on. You're like, no, thanks. I'm fine with being in my chair at home, comfy. But you still kind of have that, like, I want to see more of it kind of sensation, just because of how pretty it is. Sorry, I cut you off, Cassie. Go ahead.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. But I think we're all in basic agreement about that. I just appreciate the lack of CG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If it was used frequently, I didn't notice. And that's a plus, especially when it came to like I mentioned, the monsters, but also Reg's movements were very well done. And honestly, I don't really have much to complain about in terms of artwork. I think that there was a lot of specific choices that were made, and a lot of thought went into the show, and you can tell down to the little details in the animation work as well. And I love that a show like this is getting so much detail work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if there was any CG, I think they probably traced over it with hand drawn if they did, which is actually a kind of old school technique to hide CG into it. So if they did do anything like that, props to them.
Yeah.
But
does anyone mind if we go into sound next? Because I'm a
go.
I'm a music dork, and just like the OST on this is phenomenal. Let it also be noted, it was an Australian composer that handled the soundtrack for this show. Interesting outsource.
Did not know that.
Yeah,
I heard that this just today actually.
Yeah, and I just think they did a great job. There were so many situations where insert songs just really set the tone and like majesty of a moment. Again, the scene of like the sun rising on the town and the music they played, just perfect. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
One thing I want to throw out there, and like actually going back to the topic, the intro song was for the longest time reminding me of something, and it was bugging me, and eventually it did click, and it was reminding me of the intro song to Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. And once I realized that, I actually saw a lot of similarities between Made in Abyss and Crystal Chronicles. Admittedly, the worlds are completely different, but there are similarities, like super cute designed characters, but there is a lurking darkness to the world that these relatively young children have to venture out into to try and do something. Even the plots are completely different to the games, to the game and this. But once I realized, oh, that's what it was reminding me of, I was like, oh, they actually remind me of each other in a lot of ways. But yeah,
nice. I just looked up some of the songs by the composer Kevin Perkin, and one of the songs on the Made in Abyss soundtrack is called "Those Everyday Feels," and I just appreciate that a lot. But yeah, I mean, speaking of opening and ending, did anyone enjoy them?
I really
loved the
loved.
opening.
I like
loved
the
the
ending
ending.
as well. So, but yeah.
I think it's also great that the opening is also a little bit more like foreboding, and then like the ending is much more upbeat. And I love the story that you had for the ending, Cammy, so you should totally check it out.
Oh, okay, yeah, and this actually happened in the car yesterday when we were listening to more anime music, because as we've noted, I'm an anime music, I'm awful, guys. But anyway, so I was watching the show with my boyfriend, and then we were on some episode, and we were starting to, like, know how the ending went, and I think the entire time we've been watching the show, we were just zoned out, like, dead eyes, just, like, not moving, not saying anything, and then there's a part in the song where they sing a verse, and then it goes clap, clap, and he and I both just, like, brain dead, but like on impulse, both did the clap together, like unintentionally at the same time, and we just looked at each other. We're like, "What just happened?" And we laughed about it a lot, and it was very cute. And so,
Just goes to show our media is brainwashing us, guys.
yeah,
No.
yep, that's it. But I agree. I really like what was it? Speaking of, Jonathan also just reminded me of the lyrics being very, very significant in the opening as well, because it's the two main characters, and they're singing about, basically, we realize there's a risk here, but like the abyss is calling us, and we want to go towards it and go in the depths, even if like challenges await us or something, is like basically the vibe of the lyrics, which is really resonant. So good on them for that. But yeah, I like them both as well. I think they're very re-listenable. So yeah. What about sound mixing as a whole? What about the voice acting and the sound effects?
I think the voice acting was fantastic,
Yep.
and I think that I can't really complain about anything in the sound department. Like, there are moments that maybe if I squinted, I could find to complain about animation, but I think the sound was great, especially with the more intricate scenes.
Oh, God.
That had a lot of going on, like a lot of emotional voice acting, and also sickening noises that you probably didn't want to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the sound effects in the world, in any degree of like monsters or things that are going on, all felt real. You know, there was never that that break of like disillusionment. Everything just came together very well, I think, like you said. And just props to the voice actresses. Props.
This was just top notch, start to finish. I think, because I can't think of anything that kind like snapped me out. Like, wow, what was that? Everything helped draw me in, and the sound goes with that as well. Like the sound of the monsters that you hear, the various different creatures of the abyss, and the sound effects of other things going on.
Yeah, those other things. Yep.
Even more subtle things like the sound of Reg firing off his arms, and like the cable, like them running down the cable or drawing it back in. It's just like all these different sounds that they stacked on top of each other to make that mechanical device sound like a real device.
Yes. Craig, I don't mean to bug you about this, but you are a resident dub watcher. Was there a dub for this?
Nope. On not Funimation. Defunct Anime Strike. So yep, all Amazon. I don't know if there's been picked up for dubbing, but the Japanese was pretty rock solid. Sound design as a whole, rock solid. Same with the production in terms of the artwork. As you said, it's reminiscent of Shinkai scenery porn. So it's got that going for it. Very nice scenery mixed with cute character designs, as well as, interestingly, I couldn't ever tell if it was CG or not, but I like the shading on the characters. It made them look like they popped in such a way that, again, it looked like it could be a video game. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think production was just all around a stellar category for this show. Like, they had it locked in. Okay. So, then on that route, outside
ratings time?
Yeah, outside of spoiler room.
Well, John goes last then, doesn't he?
Yeah, so...
Well, I could probably go first.
Okay.
Alright, so, Made in Abyss, again, like that, the show was one that I went into without a lot of expectations. There were a lot of people praising it as great, and for me, that 9 times out of 10 is actually going to be more of a detriment than it is going to be something that's going to help it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of hype either, unless it's something I personally have been very excited about for a long time. So I went into it expecting to be maybe not floored, but then it ended up being one of my favorite animes of the year. And I know a lot of people have it even higher, saying it was one of the animes of the year last year. And I would have to, happily agree on that. I think there's a lot here to digest. I think there's a lot here to talk about. I could watch this show 5 times and find something new each time. I've already watched it through twice. And I'm probably going to watch it through again shortly, in probably a few months. And each time something new will pop up, and I'll probably be able to write another thesis paper if I really wanted to. Why didn't this show come out when I was in college? I could have had so much fun.
You and those thesis papers.
I love writing papers, and this show is just one of those things. It's like Evangelion. Maybe not to the extent of Evangelion, but you can go and write a million things about Evangelion. You could also probably write hundreds of things in comparison about Made in Abyss, but you still could write hundreds of papers on this show, and the intricacies that have gone into it. So that being said, it was a joy. It was something I wasn't expecting. It was one of my surprises of last year, if not the surprise I talked about the most. And I was really floored by it, despite its hype. So I loved this show a lot, and I hope more people than have already watched it will take the time to give this a shot. It's a short show. It's not even over yet, and that's the only detriment to it, is it's not finished. But the moment a season 2 drops, if we are going to get a season 2, I will be eating that up like candy.
Awesome.
So who goes next?
Cammy, do you want to go, or should I?
You called me out on it, Craig. I'll go.
I was going to say, I can go.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. I got this.
Okay.
Yeah, so... Honestly, as I said, I always thought and hoped that this show would be really good. I think that it was very good, maybe not necessarily in the way that I anticipated. And that's always fun to get just a really big surprise. And I'm really proud of this show, honestly, for just coming together so well, so unexpectedly, out of left field. I always think it's good to have a pleasant surprise. So I really, really do love the show a lot for that. I have minor, complaints. I don't think that I could go through and necessarily say that I feel this is a perfect show. Yeah, for me, slightly, but not enough to detriment the show, massively. There were a couple, sexualization things that irked me a tiny bit. There was, the arc with Ozen, I felt dragged a little bit and felt a little unnecessary at points.
Interesting.
I feel like you could have cut down maybe an episode or so, personally.
Well,
but, again, these are minor complaints in what is a really, really great show. And again, as Cassie mentioned, if you recall, it was also in my list as a great show. And I don't think that I could give it anything lower than a love it. And I am damn excited for what we have coming in, hopefully, season 2 coming up. So, yeah.
Okay. Basically, everyone basically said all the highlights before I even got a chance to say them. So
Sorry,
I've been
Craig.
No, it's fine. Basically, this again, I've said it at the beginning of this, and I'll say it again. When you get a guy that does not watch anime, Zach from Saber Progress, again, twitter.com/Saber Progress, you get a show that's worth watching, especially when he says, let's watch this together. Again, he never fucking does that. This show was a delight. in some aspects, and it was interesting to see the storytelling and others. Scenery porn up the wazoo. Very beautifully done. Nice budget allocation across the board. What can I say? Again, going a couple episodes back in the feed, you can see that it was on practically all of our top 6s. So there's that. If it doesn't say anything for you, like Cammy said, there are a few gripes, but nothing to tank the show in terms of like its scoring. IMO. There's a little bit of there's what we would call trigger warnings. Shit can get dark in the show. I'm not going to go too deep into that. And there are some little bits of sexualization. Apparently, the source material is a little bit worse than that. But, I mean, I guess they discovered the meaning of if a robot has a penis or not. So I've honestly been going back and forth between a high like it and a love it. So I'm probably just going to give it a low love it. It still hits that threshold. Again, it says something when it was in the top 6. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what happens in the coming years with this show. I'm very curious to see if the hype will still be around it, or it will pull an Attack on Titan Season 2, and it won't generate as much buzz, so.
Alright, so my turn. Yeah, everything I want to say about the series has already been touched on at some point or another. I love the fact that there are those foreboding moments even at the start, and hints about what's to come, and just you're later on realizing how real those hints were. How like no, none of this was exaggerated. This is actually what's going to happen to you, and yeah, and again, as Cassie said, if you go back and watch this, there's bound to be stuff that you missed before, and other things that are gonna grab your attention, and you could probably watch it 100 more times and still be noticing things you missed before, and that is something I really enjoy in a series. So. I will admit I've only watched this once through, but sitting here talking about it, I'm like, I actually kind of want to watch this through again, and yeah, it is one of those series that you could rewatch and rewatch and rewatch and not get tired of. So that says something in and of itself, and so I can't give it anything less than I love it. And yeah, there, as mentioned, there are things that probably would be a bit of a detriment, but I don't think it's enough to knock it away from that high score. I mean, there's far worse that have happened in less much lower quality series that people have still praised and were okay with, and knocking this down a peg because of these small moments, I think, is focusing too much on these small moments as opposed to paying attention to all the other good stuff that this series does. So
too true.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Love It's across the board, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah. I suppose it's time to round it off before we get to the spoiler section. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, it's best to get out now and actually go watch this series if you haven't already. That has been episode 49. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and yeah, spoilers now.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Now, let's get into our comfy chairs, beanbags, and head into the spoiler room.
I could use a beanbag chair. This chair I'm sitting on right now is making my butt hurt.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Same,
Wooden
actually.
chair over there.
Speaking of butt hurt, there's a lot of things I'd love to discuss in the spoiler section that people seem to heavily dislike, and one of those things is how let's talk about how you guys felt about the situation with Rico and her arm.
Talk about visceral.
Saw it coming from a mile away. Seen worse. Maybe I'm desensitized because I've seen Walking Dead and I've actually seen like full on like people getting their arms and legs chopped off, but it's just like it was visceral. I'm not sugarcoating that shit, but I'm just like, do it, fucking do it, robot, break her arm.
I'm glad it was off camera,
Yeah,
but the sound effects still sold it, and I'm just like, yeah, but like. That is not a detriment to the series, and like, no, that they've gone into this dangerous, scary place. Shit's going to happen. They are going to get hurt. Something's going to happen to one of them.
yeah.
Reg's a robot.
I've honestly thought about that whole entire scene and how it played out, and I was like, what if an adult was with them? What if Nanachi wasn't with them? Would Rico have died? Would Reg actually have broke her arm off and like actually tied it up like a la Full Metal Alchemist? Like, what would have happened? But we know what happened in the scene, so I don't know if he would have the balls to actually fucking commit to do it, but I don't know. It was an interesting thought.
Yeah, the thought of what if an adult was with them, I think that entire section would have played out very differently.
Yep.
Because I think part of why they got into that danger in the first place was
because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Was because they didn't know what they were doing, and
well, I would argue that even if they had an adult with them, it wouldn't change much. It's shown that people who have gone to, I mean, this is the spoiler section, so Reg saved an adult later.
Yeah,
like,
that is true.
It's just a dangerous place in general. I honestly, I think that if an adult was with them, they may have easily been just as screwed. Like,
I think they would have actually been
right.
more screwed if an adult was with them, because
if anything, it might even hinder them
Yeah,
more,
that's what he was
because then
saying.
Reg would have had to try and help more.
Yeah, and I don't think Nanachi would have come to help them out if there was an adult available around. I think the reason why Nanachi did approach them was because it was just the two of them and how they were with each other.
Didn't they say that the only reason Nanachi showed up was because they heard Reg actually being kind of quote unquote sounding pathetic or something like that to that effect? So
yeah.
And I think that they're like somewhere deep in the plot, and even if you look at it from what Cassie mentioned, also looking at the show as kind of a symbolism for a loss of innocence, there is something about the impact of just children in the abyss.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing that I can't remember his name, like Bone Dredge or whatever, Bone Druid, he was like seeking out children for his weirdo experiments, like primarily.
Oh,
and
yes,
so
the white whistles.
Yeah, so I think that there is like significance in the fact that there isn't an adult presence with them, and even in the fact that Rico is looking for a lost adult as well. Yeah, so it's I think that the show is made more effective in having it just be the kids, and maybe there's more deep implications for that down the line. We'll definitely wait and see. I'm excited for more depth on Bone Druid because he's an interesting character.
Yeah.
How
about that subplot with Nanachi, her backstory, or their backstory rather, with Miti?
That fucked me up.
There was a point afterwards that Cassie and I kept messaging each other and my treasure.
Yes.
The Nanachi's voice performance was so fucking good in that scene.
Right?
I know. Just heart-wrenching.
the whole entire bit with Bone Druid sending him down to level 6, and then coming back up again, Zach was saying, "Man, when did this shit turn into Akira?" Slight like a nod to Akira, but fucked up, inhumane shit happens in that movie too. So it was kind of interesting.
Again, that's why I said it was funny to me that I could handle that scene, the like Akira-esque scene, because I fucking can't stand Akira and I get very scared of it. But again, in Made in Abyss, I was so much more uncomfortable with the scene of Rico and Reg. And I don't know if, again, because the world felt so real and the type of pain and things that were going on to Rico, while like some of the Abyss symptoms weren't necessarily realistic, like having your arm broken, you know, I conceptualize that as this is something that like this is pain that I could experience, you know, and so I kind of drew on that realism, and I think that's what made that scene so much more uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Like yeah, and just the fact that, again, Cassie, like you said, it's just done so accurately with like the noises and the just
crunch.
It gets under your skin. It just really gets under your skin.
I'm sitting here shuddering, remembering all of the sound effects, and again, I'm so glad that was off camera. If that was on screen, I probably would have thrown up. But like, because it was off camera, it was enough that I could sit through it. But just still.
Out of a quick aside, John, just out of curiosity, have you ever watched like a surgery or like ER or Grey's Anatomy? Because I hear that, like, seeing surgery can make people squeamish as a whole.
My mother loves Grey's Anatomy, and there's been times where I've walked in, like, mid-surgery scene and proceeded to turn around and fuck right off out of the room the moment I realise what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is odd, because I've watched hyper-violent series like Elfen Lied, or like other series where people are getting arms cut off and decapitated, and just like, yep, that's fine.
This is fine.
This is fine. That's cool.
It's all in the execution.
Wow, he just
of the
cut
delivery,
that guy in half.
Right?
Yeah.
It's much more personal. By that point, you're with them for 11, 12, 10 episodes at that point. So you're essentially like, they're in danger with that porcupine thing. They could get killed while he's trying to essentially drain the poison out of her arm, which is inflated to the size of a literal balloon by that point. Yeah. So it's just like, tension levels are high.
Another thing that makes it look painful.
Yeah, that was also creepy. It was just the swelling. Ugh.
Yeah. Also, again, maybe it was my disillusion to it all, but I was like, okay, Reg has to get to level 4 if they're on level 5 or whatever. And she starts bleeding out of all of her orifices, and I'm like, girl would have fucking died. Dead right there. She would have literally died. She was bleeding out of her ears, her eyes, her mouth, her nose. Like,
I mean,
damn.
To an extent, yes, and to an extent, no. It wasn't like a constant, gigantic flow of blood. It was many streams.
Yeah. But,
I mean, you can lose a lot of blood still live.
Too true.
Like, there's people who've been shot in the chest and still lived afterwards. Is it likely? No. Does it happen all the time? Yes.
Too true, right.
So, to an extent, yes, and to an extent, no.
But, yeah, so, I mean, it is really interesting in general that the show just kind of it doesn't do a 180, or it does a little bit of a 180, not really a full 360, but, like, just suddenly, here's Nanachi, and then the tone and, like, the focus of the show changes so much, but it's so well done. You know? Like,
yeah.
I don't know anybody who doesn't find Nanachi's story compelling.
No.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, and it's not even like, oh, here's a character that isn't just the two. Let's latch onto it, because we did have the meeting higher up in the Abyss with I've forgotten her name. Ozen and her assistant.
Yeah.
Who's also a child.
Yep.
Who are quite young.
A blue whistle or something like that, so.
working as Ozan's assistant.
Yep.
Oh my god. What was it? Oh, just speaking of, what is it? Intricate storytelling, like Cassie was mentioning, and again, things that you that you aren't necessarily given, but when it hits, you're like, oh fuck. When they, like, what was it? When they literally, like, did the flashback episode on Nanachi's past, and, like, I see this red-haired girl, and I'm like, fuck! That's Mitty.
Yep.
No! Like, before her name was even said, I was like, shit, this is gonna, that, again, just like that drop, and it's like, oh no. Oh, no, and you're just in turmoil then for the rest of everything. Those little moments, man, were so good.
I can't think of any other real thing that's a spoiler. I mean, we figured out that Rika was born in the abyss, and she was thrown into a cube. She was a stillborn, and then thrown into a...
That was actually a twist I didn't see coming. Yeah.
Same. I honestly didn't realize that was the thing. And that's the reason why she has glasses, because apparently she's under a permanent curse or something like that, so...
Yeah, well, and then that's how the title of the show then works in. Yeah, Made in Abyss.
Yeah, and you've also got there was a line that came up, and like anything that came from the abyss will return wants to return to the abyss. And then you've got the fact that Rico and Reg both want to get back to the depths of the abyss, which is hinted at where they came from, both of them. So yeah, when you first hear the title, I was like, oh, because Reg's made in the abyss. I was like, oh no, Rico's also made in the abyss. Okay, fair enough.
One thing that actually, if anyone has any clarification on, there was the bit about where Rika woke up and she talked about how she could like see basically like Mitty, and there was like definitely some emotional significance of like there was like messaging or thoughts going on in between them, but that was something that I honestly kind of missed, like the significance of that interaction, if anybody can kind of recall.
I just remember it essentially it kind of remember it. It was like in her mind space where she was like trapped in her body, her consciousness, and she looked through like a hole and then saw Mitty's eye just gleamed right in front of her. And I'm like, well, that's kind of creepy, but I mean, maybe.
And she could hear someone else crying, which was implied it was Mitty crying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is sad, because if you think about it, that would mean that technically Mitty was still in there somewhere. But,
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there was the whole fact that, like, Mitty was so connected to Riko while she was unconscious. I felt like at that moment when Riko was kind of talking about what happened, there was some form of epilogue there, but I didn't really get it. I guess it's a connection of that they're both so deeply impacted by the abyss or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is an argument you can make.
Yeah.
But there was also the fact that at the end of her dream, Mitty stopped crying.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was also oh God.
I think she looked through, and I might be just adding this in and remembering wrong, but wasn't there? She saw Mitty happy for like one last moment before she disappeared.
I just saw her leaving, I think.
Yeah.
I saw her leaving, but she wasn't crying when she was leaving. That was it.
And that makes sense, because honestly, and this is something that Get noticed that I thought was pretty cool, is like, Mitty's cry when she, like, gets obliterated sounds a little bit like, yeah, like, no. And so we were like, I don't know if she, like, it's like, was this the right decision or not? And then it's nice to kind of get that assurance, just because that scene is so painful. So yeah, that was
so, there was that one last reassurance. No, you did do the right thing.
And I think in doing the right thing, then Nanachi is also like fully ready to go with them and take another step in her life. So That scene where she goes back and looks at the house man and then turns around.
Honestly, one of the scenes that fucked me up even more
Mm-hmm.
than Nanachi and Miti saying goodbye is the scene where Reg and Miti are just like Reg and Nanachi are just sitting there and just discussing whether he wants to go through with helping her or not. And he makes a comment like, after I like do this for you, like you can't kill yourself or something like that. And she's like, oh well, of course I gotta help Rico. And he's like, well, even after that, she's just like, you're so cruel. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking deep. And it really kind of hit me in a really tough spot too.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, and that actually made me tear up more than the initial like goodbye scene with Miti. I was like, oh, this is so cruel and sad.
I mean, it's real. Yeah, that's a very real moment, and it was really good that they included that. And I mean, God, I mean, just there is that fact of, especially that just like Nanachi existed solely for Miti, and like who knows the last time that she was ever even told by someone like, I care about the worth of your life. God damn.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, her entire story was that they didn't
Exactly.
care. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Nobody cared. Miti was the first person that actually showed any feelings towards her. So that's why she had that huge attachment, and then along comes Reg and Rico, and Rico was unconscious at this time, so it's just like Rico needed her, because literally needed her to survive at that point to get better, and then Reg was like, no, I actually do want you around even after you finished helping us. Just,
Yeah. It is interesting, too, I just think, in the fact that the show decided to end on a character arc rather than any, obviously, just, like, solid plot conclusion. But I also think that the end of the series felt wrapped up to me in, and, like, a scene that I really loved, I don't know why necessarily I really loved it, was when they sent the balloon up. And you saw it go through all those challenges and pass everybody, and like even some of the monsters that they'd seen, and then it reaches everybody. And then I got just a sense of like, this is like everything that they went through, and they're still going, and like that. And then I was like, yeah, I could accept this as like the conclusion bit right here. Yeah. Like it was a nice little package.
It got caught up at the watch.
Oh yeah, and then they sent it. They helped send it back up.
They fixed it out. They fixed up the balloon a little and let it finish its journey all the way up. Even though technically they weren't supposed to let it get past them because they knew who it was from. They're like, no, there you go.
Yeah, but I like that, and it was also just a good resemblance of the characters, like battered and beaten, but we're still going. So yeah.
Another thing that was a bit of a blink and you missed it thing, going back to the orphanage, there was a bit at the start where they said something about the birthday curse.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was very briefly touched on, and then we never went back. So
and then we did have that one odd episode where it went back to the orphanage, and we saw this kid is actually like gotten really sick, and it seems like he's about to die, and it's the birthday curse, he's gonna die, and then they took him out of the town and onto the boat, and he was miraculously cured, and like, what the fuck?
Because again, the curse of the abyss is Zach theorized that the curse of the abyss is spewing out of it and into the town, and those that are young or probably have shit immune systems are liable to be cursed by it and are going to die due to it.
I just wonder what the significance of the birthday is.
I do not know.
Yeah, that's what
I guess we'll
I'm
have to
really
find
curious
out.
about.
Especially because they made a comment about like a lot of the orphans there they don't know when their birthdays are.
Yeah.
So why would the abyss specifically target those days if they may or may not be their real birthday? Like all these questions we didn't have answered is why.
Yeah.
I would be very disappointed if we don't get something else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I did see saying a sequel has been confirmed. But yeah, it hasn't been confirmed as a season 2 or an OVA or something. So
I've also heard that there is more manga material, so I'm hoping pretty hard for a season 2. Yeah.
yeah.
'Cause people were saying we get more on Bone Druid and like his motivations and stuff too. So we will see.
Yep.
Yeah, it definitely was hinting that we was gonna be meeting him in whatever sequel we do get when we get it. So there's a lot of questions about the Abyss and like how deep are we on the 5th layer out of how many? There's a lot more to go.
7 or 8? I don't remember.
And maybe there's more undiscovered ones. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they've only gone so far.
You go past
And-
level 7 and then everything else just turns into hellfire. You know, it's just literally hell at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that covers us on spoilers. I think.
Yep.
For me, I'm good.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else to talk about really.
Okay. Well, this was fun,
This
guys.
was fun.
Yeah. My treasure.
Oh
Go
God.
fuck yo. Well, I'm gonna go and move my butt because it hurts.
All right.
So I will talk to all of you on the next episode of Annie Chatbox.
Yep. Stay
All right.
tuned, everybody.
Oh yes, me.
Bye bye.
Peace.